Texas basketball continues their losing streak. Are the Chiefs the next great NFL dynasty? And the NBA All-Star Weekend heads to the United Center. All this and more on College Crossfire.
Back, let's do this.
All right, let me explain why Aaron Judge is getting it. You can boo me all you want.
We're about to get a lot of booze in the studio. Cheating is encouraged. Look, hang on.
Hammy, I don't like that.
Oh, you like take a bow. Take a bow.
This is all chaos.
Welcome back into College Crossfire. And after a week off, we are glad to be back to debate some of the hottest topics in sports and on the 40 acres. Before we get into it, though, let's meet the panel. So tonight, on first base, we have the reigning champ who's won back-to-back shows, Dalton. Clark, going for that three-peat. How do you feel?
Just taking it easy. Looking forward to having some fun.
Got it. On second base, we have the new sports director himself, Mr. Daniel Shih. Daniel, great to have you back.
Thanks, man. I'm off a 1 year long retirement, so it's time to get it on.
There it is. And on third base, we have Mr. 305 himself, Raul Rodriguez. Raul, great to have you back, my man.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take out these two veterans right here. I'm going to debate them till the end, so we'll see how it goes.
Well, you know what? Good luck to all you guys, okay? We're going to start out with the show. After getting a big win on the road at TCU, the Texas Longhorns got right back to their winning ways and right back to their losing ways, and they continued their woes in the Big 12. The team has dropped back-to-back home losses against Texas Tech and #1 Baylor. So after the loss, what are your thoughts about these two games against Texas Tech and Baylor?
They didn't get the job done, plain and simple. This was a huge opportunity for Texas in terms of their NCAA tournament potential. You had an opportunity to get two big signature wins at home back-to-back. You go out and you blow a 16-point lead against Texas Tech, and you only score 45 points against Baylor. I know Baylor's good, but come on, you got to do more than that. And look, this has been a problem that has persisted throughout the Shaka Smart era at Texas, is Texas kind of sometimes struggles to run some set plays, and they don't get buckets in games. And their offense doesn't move that much, and they can be very stagnant, and they're shooting 34% from the field in the last two games, and that's hurt them.
Yeah, like you said, they had to take advantage of those two home games against Texas Tech and Baylor, which they were unable to do.
Yeah, I personally don't think that losing to Baylor is that big of a deal. Again, they're the #1 team in the country, and Texas played pretty well. They only gave up 50-odd points to the #1 team in the country. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna be honest, when I was sitting in my bed watching the game, I didn't expect Texas to win that game. Again, it's Baylor #1, and even the commentators were like, "Hey, Baylor, when is Baylor gonna really be that #1 team and blow Texas out?" We saw that in the second half. But losing to Texas Tech, who is below 500 at home, after being up 16 points, it's the most Shaka Smart thing I've ever seen. And it could have been a signature win, but again, it's a low-lead Texas Tech team that wasn't the same team as last year. So, but on the Baylor team, on the Baylor loss, I'd rather lose to #1 Baylor than to Radford. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they played tough in that Baylor game, but Baylor has won 20-plus straight games. Right. Tough to win, even if Baylor comes into your building.
Yeah, so you guys hit it right on the money. Obviously, offense for the Longhorns has been a huge struggle. We talked about that lead that they blew. They lost Texas Tech at home, Baylor at home. And let me give you some stats right now. Courtney Ramey against Baylor, he went 3 for 14. You look at Matt Coleman, also went 4 for 12. And that's obviously, you're taking shots, fine, but you got to make them. If you're going to be a starter on the team, you got to take shots. Baylor, same deal. You're putting up points against a team, #1 in the nation, played well, but not well enough. Shaka Smart, obviously, having some struggles. I think the Longhorns defense, isn't bad, but their offense has not really helped them out in situations, especially against, home matchups against Texas Tech and Baylor, especially when you need those wins if you want to make it into the tournament.
Yeah, I think, like you said it right on the head, shot selection has been really poor for them. When you see Coleman and Ramey's numbers, they have been very, very poor. We move on, though. The Texas Longhorns NCAA tourney hopes are virtually over. Unless a magical run in the Big 12 tournament happens, the Longhorns will be sitting at home and watching the games for the second straight year, with the Texas Longhorns still figuring out a way to get into postseason play. How do you see these last few games playing for the Longhorns, or last 7 games?
I disagree with you. I think that the hopes of Texas being in the tournament is still there. If you finish 5-2 for the rest for the final 7 games of the season, but which by the way isn't all that hard because the last 7 games you already played Kansas, Baylor, and Tech in your second round already. So finish 5-2, not the worst thing in the world to do. And you go deep in, so you finish 500 in Big 12 play, one of the deepest basketball conferences out there in the country, and you go deep into the Big 12 tournament. They have all the rights in the world to be in that, at least be in that bubble, maybe be in the last 4. But if they don't finish 5-2 in the season, they lose horribly to one of those bad teams in the Big 12 in one of the last 7 games and get eliminated in the first 2 rounds of the tournament. Their season's over. They're going to the NIT one more time, and probably we're going to be the 69th best team in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, it is really tough. The only thing I have to say is that their non-conference schedule wasn't strong enough, so that might really hurt them when it comes to making the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and I'll also compound off that. So obviously, I think the upcoming 7 games, I don't think they're going to have as much success. I think they're going to go 3-4, lose some of the games where you think they might actually succeed in. I think Iowa State, they had a close game against them at home. They're going to go play them over there. I think they're going to drop that game. Obviously, like I said earlier, offense, huge struggle, and especially when you're playing against Baylor, losing to Baylor, Texas Tech, kind of demoralizing. You're already looking at a season from the previous season, which you did not make the tournament. I don't really think this season is going to be anything different. I think maybe you make the NIT again. I think it's more of getting a rhythm for the Texas team because obviously they haven't really been able to produce as much success as a successful season as you'd expect them to. So definitely these 7 games, you look for maybe a little bit of rebuilding, reassessing where they're at, and other than that, I don't really see them going as far as they should. So.
Yeah, it looks like it's heading towards an NIT berth again for the Longhorns, potentially.
These next 7 games could be the pen that bursts Texas bubble. 4 of these games are on the road, and 2 of them are against teams you already lost to, Texas Tech and Oklahoma. At home, you have to go toe-to-toe with West Virginia, who's number 14 in the country right now, and they keep getting better. I think there are only 2 wins that are self-assured, and the rest of these games are coin flips, and it's getting harder since there's so much pressure. And it could get worse with the Big 12 tournament coming up as well.
Yeah, they have some tough games. Like you said, Texas Tech, a tough place to play. So some of those matchups might really hurt them down the stretch. We're going to transition, though, from Texas men's basketball to some Texas baseball with the season coming up. So Texas baseball starts their season on Friday against the Rice Owls. They severely underperformed last year with a 500 record. With new coaching hires and younger guys ready to step up for the team, what is going to be the biggest change for the Texas squad this year?
I think it's a glimpse into the future because when you look at this roster, there are 17 freshmen, and a lot of them are going to play a big role, specifically in the infield at the second base and shortstop position. And that's really important because the second base and shortstop obviously stop teams from getting extra base hits, and that's something Texas struggled with a little bit last season. You don't have David Hamilton anymore, but you have a talented young shortstop in Trey Faultine, and Brendan Dixon is likely to see some playing time at second base. So it's good that these guys are getting playing time, but they need to step up and become stars right away in year 1.
Yeah, I agree with all the points.
So yeah, same thing. Basketball, offense, baseball, offense. Let me give you some information right now.
Got it.
Last year, Eric Kennedy, a freshman, led the team with a batting average of .310 as a freshman, and you're leading the team with that. A low batting average doesn't even make the top 200 of players in the nation. That's already kind of disappointing. You're going to get guys you talked about earlier, some assurance in the infield and outfield. You talked about Trey Faultini, Andre Duplantier coming in as a pitcher. Cam Constantine's going to come in as an outfielder and catcher. DJ Pastrinski was injured for the majority of last season, coming in as a senior, solid catcher for them. I think if they can really, get better on the offensive side, another thing that happened last year was they only had 25 home runs. 6 teams in the Big 12 had over 40 home runs. So as a team, if you're only hitting 25 and you're competing in a conference where they're, completely blowing you out of the water, it's something to look at. And I think that's the focus that they have to look for this season.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those.
Yeah, I think you pointed at the offense. Texas had not been traditionally good at offense. They build on their pitching and build on their fielding. Yes, the offense was terrible last year, but they're in the game most of the time until the 7th, 8th inning when the relief pitcher comes in and they just blow the game open. So the offense, yes, it's been terrible, but that wasn't the real problem. What the real problem is not finishing the game, and that comes from experience, and that comes from coaching, that comes from tutoring from a coaching staff. That's why I'm going to go away from the rosters. I'm going to talk about Troy Tulowitzki and Houston Street being added to that coaching staff. They bring a lot of Major League Baseball experience. Troy was still in the league last year. And so with all of that MLB experience coming in, teaching the kids how to play, how to get out of bad situations, that's more important than with a couple of recruits.
Yeah, they got some nice former MLB players to join that staff. Big job, big well done job for Texas. Well, despite last year's result, the team traditionally has won over 40 games and has earned plenty of bids to the College World Series. While typically Texas may be at the point potentially being a rebuilding year due to a lot of their young talent. So the question is, what is the goal of this team this year?
I think you definitely got to find yourself as a team. You know, a lot of freshmen coming into this team haven't really played with each other yet. You know, making sure that you have a really good connection to build off for the next couple of years. We lost a lot of guys who were there for you when you won that successful season 2 years ago. Last season, 27-27, disappointment for them. Get those freshmen connected, make them build those relationships, and get better chemistry as they play against these, couple easy games coming up. For when you got to play against those really tough teams that they're going to play, especially in the conference, you have a lot of tough opponents that you're going to go against. So really build that freshman base. Let those veterans that are on the team, seniors and juniors, really show them how to compete, what needs to happen for a team to just be successful, especially when you're the Texas Longhorns and you're one of the storied franchises in the nation.
I think it's realistic for Texas to be in the top 16 at the end of the season. They're not going to be 500 again. They're not going to miss the Big 12 tournament once again. Look, it's realistic to be in the top 16. Maybe a little bit of a push to be in the top 8 when you host a super regional, but it's very realistic to imagine Texas hosting a regional at the end of the season and then go face maybe an Ole Miss, maybe I can't come up with a name right now. Maybe a Stanford down there at Palo Alto in the super regional.
Okay.
I think this team's goal should be to finish top 5 in the Big 12. David Pierce has described them as a young group who has a desire to be great. I think they're going to struggle a bit. There's going to be some growing pains, but this is the group that's going to get Texas back on track in 2020.
Awesome, guys. All great answers. So at the end of round one, we have Raul with 10, Daniel with 10, and Clark with 9. So Clark, you're going to have to catch up. When we come back, the panel debates who won the NBA trade deadline and whether the Kansas City Chiefs are the team to beat moving forward. Woo! Welcome back to College Crossfire, and let's quickly remind everybody of the score. We have Raul with 10, Daniel with 10, and Clark with 9, but remember, it's still anybody's game. The Texas softball team has absolutely dominated their competition so far and have posted a record of 6-0. After a strong season last year and their impressive start in 2020, who is going to stop the Texas softball dominance in non-conference play? Clark, we'll start with you.
Okay. So this team has scored 78 runs in 6 games. Not very many teams are going to stop them. In my opinion, there are only 2 teams they have to worry about. That's Washington, who's the #1 team in the country, and the defending national champions, the UCLA Bruins. They have to play them on the road. That's going to be tough to beat them. My only concern is, don't get me wrong, they've been outstanding, but they haven't played a ranked opponent yet, so there's no telltale sign of how they're going to do, but I think they will be competitive.
Those are all great points. Daniel?
Okay, so this year, Texas non-conference is a lot stronger than last year. Last year, they're playing more of a SEC football non-conference schedule with a lot of cupcakes. This year, after the first weekend, they're not playing very, very good teams. So, yes, I understand why you said they're dominating, but again, we have to be realistic here. They're playing Washington, UCLA, Alabama, and Michigan, all of which are at least in the top 25. Most of them are in the top 15. And so if you're Texas, you're 6th in the country, but it's a little bit overrated. How do they prove themselves that they're in the top 10? Again, Washington, Alabama, UCLA, Michigan. Those are the 4 games that you need to keep in mind.
Well, they got games coming up to prove that they can be they have that deserving ranking, right?
So I will say, even though we have 6-0 record against, not necessarily the best teams, I do think if any team is going to stop this Texas Longhorns softball team, it's going to be Alabama. Alabama played the Longhorns the end of the season last year, we lost 2 games against them, 1-1. In that last game, it was 5-8. Longhorns lost. This year, they played them twice. You know, obviously, Alabama right now has a record of 1-3, lost to Florida State twice, UNC once, and beat them the other time. Still, both good teams, so it's not like they're losing to some bad teams. They're going to be a tough opponent, playing them twice. Obviously, that last year, that end of the season loss, I'm sure it sticks to the Longhorns a little bit. So if any team is going to be one to stop the Longhorns, it's going to be Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama's definitely a threat. I'm going to give Daniel the point here, though. I like that he brought up, watch, the Texas Longhorns, they're in that top 10, but they really haven't played too many people, and they have all those teams that they're going to need to prove themselves to earn that ranking. So as we move on, though, let's get into some NBA. The trade deadline has passed, and many players went on the move. D'Lo joined Cat in Minnesota. Marcus Morris went from the East Coast to the West Coast, and Andre Iguodala finally got out of Memphis and made his way down to South Beach. What was the biggest move during the trade deadline, according to you guys?
Okay, so I'm gonna go on a limb. It's a very unconventional team to pick as a winner. Actually, Bleacher Report had them as losers, but the Golden State Warriors, I think, got out of this trade deadline pretty well. Look,
Interesting.
Because they got D'Angelo Russell because the Nets don't want him anymore. They needed people to come into the new stadium, so they brought in D'Angelo Russell to see what he can bring to the team. The team hasn't performed under him, and he's not the cheapest player out there. So you get rid of him, you get a couple more pieces. You can test out who fits well in your system. Some of the young talents played in the finals last year, and next year Klay Thompson is going to be back, so you still have the best backcourt in the league. You start Draymond Green. We'll see how good he does. But again, you have a couple more. You can probably buy another veteran piece later in the offseason, and they can still be a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Andrew Wiggins mixes with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry next year, since those guys are currently injured. Right?
So I think undisputedly the Miami Heat or the best in terms of coming out of that trade deadline. Andre Iguodala. He's got that championship experience, veteran. Miami Heat, the entire season, only thing they've really struggled with was defense. Offense has always been a strong point for them since the beginning of the season. Andre Iguodala comes in and is a veteran presence, going to beef up all that depth for the Miami Heat. But kind of the sleeper in that whole trade, which nobody thought was going to be great, Jay Crowder is a machine. In 2 games with the Heat, he has 39 points, and he's 29 years old. Nobody thought Jay Crowder would come into this team and be as dominant as he has, stepping up when Jimmy Butler was injured, Tyler Hero's been injured, and now he's coming in and putting on a show. Him and Iguodala fit that Heat culture. Solomon Hill also was brought in with that trade, hasn't really played, but again, you're looking at guys who fit the culture, have done extremely well on their teams, and now they're coming onto a team that's young and needs veteran presence, and they're doing just that.
Yeah, with an East that's dominated by the Bucks, but there's teams like the Heat and the Sixers who are trying to get in there, and getting those pieces is definitely going to help them in the playoffs. Clark?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say the Minnesota Timberwolves. The reason is they're thinking long-term. A couple years ago, this was the team of the future. But Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns, their play styles really didn't mesh together for some reason. But what they did was really smart. They had D'Angelo Russell, who's very, very close with Cat. They're best friends, and his play style fits because he's a shot creator, which is what Cat needs to be dominant in an offense. And additionally, another possibility it brings in is adding Devin Booker in the future, because that trade cleared up a lot of cap space, which means they can add a third top-tier player. So they're thinking long-term, and if they can get that trio together, maybe you can evolve into a contender in the West.
Watch, they are thinking long-term. They did bring in D'Lo, but however, I do have to give the point to Raul. I do like what the Miami Heat did, adding guys like Andre Iguodala, especially like you mentioned, Jay Crowder has played excellent, and a guy who's always been a productive player for teams that he's been on. So Raul, you're going to get the point. We move on, though, to the NFL now. After coming up so close the year before, the Chiefs were able to make a crazy fourth-quarter comeback and win the Super Bowl behind Patrick Mahomes. This makes him the first player in NFL history to win a league MVP and Super Bowl under the age of 25. With the Patriots' dominance looking like it's coming to an end, is Kansas City the next NFL dynasty? Raul?
So I'm just going to say it's way too early to tell. You look at the past 2 seasons, Kansas City making it to the playoffs, but this is their first Super Bowl win in 50 years. Obviously, extremely talented team. Patrick Mahomes, MVP, Super Bowl MVP. He's fantastic. The team, also fantastic. They got stars like Tyrann Mathieu on the defense. Damian Williams has been really good for them on offense. But when you look at teams that have been dynasties, the Cowboys, Patriots, they have all had Super Bowls after once. Like, they've always made it to the Super Bowl. And if they haven't made it to the Super Bowl, they're making it far in the playoffs. It's way too early for these Chiefs. If you give them another year in the late rounds in the AFC Championship, Super Bowl, then you can start asking, Are these guys going to be the next big thing? But as of now, I just can't do it.
Is there a team that's on your mind that might not be the Chiefs, or not right now? Everything too early?
I think it's way too early. There's no, I mean, 49ers obviously the NFC favorite, but they haven't really shown as much in terms of dominance. Ravens are probably the next closest thing, but another mobile quarterback, I don't know.
True. All good points. Clark?
I have to give an emphatic yes. Now, maybe next year they're not going to go back-to-back Super Bowl champions, but over a 10-year period, the future looks bright for this team. They have a star who commands an offense that is like no other, a great head coach, and they're well run. Additionally, they're going to get better on defense because Chris Harris Jr., who's an all-pro cornerback and Super Bowl champion, is rumored to be very interested in joining forces with the Chiefs. And let's look at the rest of the AFC. Right now, it's a little bit shaky in terms of the organizations. I don't think Tom Brady knows where he's going to go. And the AFC West, that division is terrible. The Raiders, the Chargers, the Broncos, they're not beating the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to squash them. The AFC South is a bit hot and cold. And I like the Ravens, but Lamar Jackson's playoff struggles are concerning, so I think the path for the Chiefs in the AFC is clear.
Hey, when you have Patrick Mahomes on your side, you always have a good shot at winning. Daniel?
Yeah.
Maybe not quite emphatic yes. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. And there's only
Okay.
one reason why. Your quarterback will not be as good in his 30s and his 40s than he is right now because he relies on his athleticism, not like Tom Brady. Who, listen, Tom Brady play like he's 20 when he's 40 years old. Mahomes won't be that kind of player.
Interesting. Is there a team, though, that you think right now also, or are you still thinking a team like Baltimore with Lamar Jackson? They're not going to be able to have the long run since he's a running quarterback as well, right? Do you think maybe the 49ers?
I think they will be. It will be like baseball, where everybody has a shot every single year. The playoff format is built that way.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, watch. Again, all great points, all fair points, but I'm going to give it to Clark because I do think Kansas City has a real good shot. When you have Patrick Mahomes on your side, anything is possible, and I do think he'll just keep getting to the AFC Championship basically every year with that division the way it is. So right now, to recap the score, though, quickly, Raul, you have 11, Daniel, 11, Clark, you have 10. When we come back, the panel debates which NBA dunker made them speechless and how might they change a playoff format.
There you go.
Welcome back, and now it is time for rapid fire. Let's quickly recap the score, though. We have Raul with 11, Daniel with 11, and Clark with 10. Remember, though, this round, it's 2 points per answer, so it's anybody's game. We all know. Thank you. So let's get to the first rapid fire question. So recently, it's been rumored that the MLB will be looking to change its playoff format by expanding its total teams in the playoffs to 14 and expanding the one-game wild card to a best-of-3 series. If you could change any league's playoff format, how would you reconstruct it? Anybody hop in?
Okay, I'm going to start with the NBA. I talked about this on my podcast, Rants with Danny Shih. Go search rantswithdannyshih.buzzsprout.com. I talked about this last year. There shouldn't be any playoff where more than half the league makes it.
Okay.
The majority of the league do not have a chance do not have the right to compete for the championship. That's not how the playoffs are supposed to be. So you have to shorten it, and the first round cannot be the best of 7 because basketball's not like baseball where the pitcher determines everything. If you make it best of 7 the first round, the lower seed has no shot. So you have got to give the lower seed a shot. You make it down to best of 3 at most. Make it 4. Wait, no, right now it's 8 teams each, right? 4 teams each. First round is best of 3, and then best of 5, and then best of 7.
So you want the top 8 team or top 4 teams in each conference in the NBA.
Right, yeah.
Interesting. I think the NBA has a lot of teams, so I don't know if people would agree with that, but definitely. Anybody else?
I'm going to go really radical here.
Okay.
For years,
like
I've wanted to get rid of divisions and conferences altogether in pro sports and just put the best 8 teams in the playoffs. I'm talking every pro sport. So let's get the best 8 in and get the true champion.
See, I like the idea, but the issue is scheduling is always a tough one, and that's specifically why they have divisions and conferences. But there might be ways to move that around where you can get some of the better teams despite conferences. Ro?
Am I allowed to say college football playoffs?
You are allowed to say college football playoffs.
I mean, okay, right off the bat, you got to have more than the best 4 teams coming in. I mean, you got so many conferences, so many great. I want to see the UCF Knights in the playoffs. I want to see them. And if we can't, national champs. We need to have more teams coming in like that.
You know what? All them great points. I like the NBA answer, and I like maybe potentially doing the best teams, but I'm going to give it the college football playoff for Raul. And the reason why I say this is despite this year people criticizing the idea of expanding, I think in years past you have seen the 5th and the 6th team definitely being capable of competing when you see in Alabama getting in at the 4 when people didn't believe, but they're winning it all.
Right.
That's why I'm going to give it to Raul, so we're really going to get the 2 points there. We move on, though. From Jordan and Wilkins to Levine and Gordon, the dunk contest is always the main attraction during All-Star Saturday slate. This year, former standouts Dwight Howard and Aaron Gordon are competing and look to lay claim as the top NBA dunker. So in the honor of this event, what is your favorite dunk contest memory?
It has to be the year Nate Robinson won it. Score 1 for the little guy. This guy is 5'9". 5'9", that's average height, and he's going up against all these elite NBA players. And this dude's like jumping 48 feet. It was awesome. He's spinning around, doing 360s in the air, putting on a green Knicks jersey. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, Nate was awesome. I mean, we might have seen it before in Spud Webb, but Nate was great to see that again. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with my most memorable dunk contest moment. Dwight Howard pulling back the shirt.
That's a good one.
Superman unleashes the dunk. That was an all-time great moment for me. I mean, I'm never going to forget that. You come to the dunk contest with a Superman shirt on, I mean, that's just as great as you can get.
Daniel?
I'm going to go with Blake Griffin jumping over a Kia. Well, first of all, Robert Trevino, happy birthday, it's your birthday. But yeah, they're jumping over a car. Like, you know the thing with 4 wheels that weighs
Yes.
about a couple tons? Yeah, a car. Like, he jumped over that. Like,
Kobe did the same thing.
and he made his money's worth with a sponsorship. Like, that's 2 birds with 1 stone. Like,
I know.
How can you do, like, that's so OP.
Watch, those were all great moments. For me, I love Vince Carter. I thought what Vince Carter did in 2000 was incredible. But you know what? I am going to give it to Clark here. Nate Robinson, you know why? Because we hadn't seen it in a while, and he's won plenty of those dunk contests. He's proven that it wasn't just a fluke that he can win every year. So Clark, you're getting the 2 points. It's the last question, though, still anybody's game. Over the past weekend, the XFL came back and provided us with football Saturdays and Sundays that we've been craving since the Super Bowl was over. This time there was no "he hate me" or Vince McMahon on center stage, but former college standouts like Cardale Jones and Coach Bob Stoops. However, it wasn't a great start for the season for all, as LA Wildcats DC Pepper Johnson was fired after only 1 game. So my question is, what is a coaching position you'd be fired from after 1 game?
The Minister of Culture. How can you built a losing culture in the first game of your franchise history? You gotta get rid of your Minister of Culture.
Got it.
I'd go as a defensive coordinator. I'd probably be terrible. As a guy, I'm talking about myself here. I am not the most aggressive person. So as a defensive coordinator, I'm coaching these guys. Let's get at it. Let's get at it. I'm not the most inspiring figure. So I get cut first day. I'm out.
Yep.
I'm a head coach. I'm a stubborn guy. Got a big personality, but I am risky when I play Madden. My roommate will tell you 4 verticals every play. I go for it on 4th and 25. Sometimes it works, but you couldn't have a head coach who's as aggressive as me, going for onside kicks the very first kickoff. I suck.
Watch. Again, all great answers. But I'm going to give the point to Raul, and I'll tell you why. He said he's not a loud guy, not very, spoken. And to be at DC, you got to be. So you probably would be fired after 1 game. But you know what that means? He gets the 2 points. He might be fired as a DC, but you are our winner today. Raul is the winner of our show. Do we have time for FaceTime? We do have time for FaceTime. That is always great. So we're going to give you the FaceTime, Raul. Raul, speak, baby.
Okay, so first off, if you want to hear more about the best NBA trades, worst NBA trades, tune into College Press Box on Monday, and you'll hear more of that. I'll be giving you guys the lowdown. Second of all, I just want to say I beat these 2 guys. I've never won, and these guys have won before, so this is a huge moment. I'm happy to just be here.
He's bullying the old man.
Yeah, I'm becoming a threat on this show, which is great. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to debate, talk about Miami Heat right now. They're on fire. They're the Heat, so they have to be on fire.
Well, that is awesome. You said your first win?
Yes, first win.
First win. Everybody give a hand for his first win. Come on, Raul. Okay, everybody, thank you again for being on the show. Congrats to our winner, Raul. And thank you for tuning in to tonight's show. Be sure to check out the 1-0 Sports Show every Friday at 9 a.m. and College Press Box every Monday at 9:30 p.m. And for the latest news, sports news on the 40 Acres, don't forget to follow at TSTV Sports on social media. And for all the panelists and people in studio and Master Control, have a wonderful weekend.
Let's go.